Today I'm really excited to be talking to Ade Rawcliffe, who is Director of Creative Diversity at ITV, the UK's largest commercial broadcaster. So, Ade, first of all, tell us about yourself. Give us a brief introduction to you.
Okay, so hello, thank you for having me. My name is Ade Rawcliffe. As you just said, my job title is Director of Creative Diversity at ITV, and my job is to drive representation of all groups, both on screen, in terms of who's in front of the camera, but also in terms of who's making what's behind the camera, and also in terms of our production teams. And my background, brief history, is I worked doing a similar role for about 10 years at Channel 4, did things like the Paralympics, both in London and Rio. And before that, I was a producer and I made programs like The Big Breakfast and Big Brother and This Morning and things like that.
Sure, great. So if we weren't talking about COVID-19 all the time, I think we'd all be talking diversity, especially just at the moment with the George Floyd thing and the Black Lives Matter coming to the fore. I guess we can be slightly, that can slightly skew our view of diversity. But so how would you define diversity and why is it important?
I mean, I think what we talk about a lot at ITV is that what we're trying to do is normalise television so that television looks like the world we all live in. I think it's more important than ever that television reflects the lives and experiences of people. I think we should all be able to see ourselves represented on screen. And what it means, it's about including everybody. And I think in this increasingly competitive market, when you have Netflix, when you have Amazon, I think more than ever, to be a commercially successful broadcaster, you have to reflect the changing nature of Britain. And so that's what it means to me. I mean, in terms of our focus, what we focus on is areas where there's underrepresentation. So we have statistical analysis, which will tell us that, in some areas, people of colour are underrepresented. In most areas in television, people with disabilities are underrepresented. And in some areas, even directing, you find that we don't have enough women directing. So what we're about is underrepresentation and how we make representation accurately look like the world we all live in.
So that, I think, is a really important point, that it's about making our industry represent the country.
Yeah, and our viewers. One of the things I always say is that I'm not trying to make people make their programs worse. I honestly believe that by including more people and having different ideas and different perspectives, you get better content. And that's what we're all about. We want to be the most creative and the most successful organisation we can be. And we really believe that diversity and inclusion is a really important element of doing that.
So it's not just about creating opportunities for disabled or BAME people, it's about improving the output.
Yeah, I mean, it's about by creating opportunities, you will improve the output. Is what I really, really strongly believe. So it's the right thing to do, and we should do it because it's the right thing to do. But also, it gives us a creative and a competitive advantage when we get it right. So it's an exciting opportunity. And what I would say is that even though my role is Director of Creative Diversity, clearly I am one person in an organisation. So one of the things that I say all the time at ITV, and I would encourage people listening to this, is that it's what can you do? What can you do to make the difference? What can you do to give someone an opportunity? What can you do to broaden the base from which you recruit from? Because I think one of the challenges in our industry is that historically we haven't had open enough recruitment processes. So for example, now all ITV jobs are advertised and all internships are paid. And I think things like that help to increase the talent pool from which we can all recruit from.
Yeah, that's also interesting that television as an industry has always been slightly down to who you know.
Yeah.
So now we're looking to make it open and free.
Yeah. Open and sort of. I mean, also it's just this thing. I mean, another thing I always say is that why would you fish in a puddle when you can fish in an ocean? The broader you look for talent, the more variety you're going to get, and the better talent you're going to get. So I always say to people, you've got to broaden where you look for talent and go out and say to different groups, look, we are open and we are interested in you.
That's interesting. So it is very much a benefit for the employer. It's
Yeah.
not a benefit for the
Yeah.
well, it obviously
Yeah.
is a benefit for the individual, but it cuts both ways.
Yeah, it's a mutual benefit. I think it's a mutual benefit, and I think you have to see it like that. But but clearly, as a public service broadcaster, it is the right thing to do, and that is why we do it. But also, it makes us more creative as well. I mean, it's worth me also sort of talking about some of the things that we're doing in terms of to get better. We have an apprenticeship scheme where we bring people in from sort of underrepresented groups to work at ITV. We're going to be bringing 30 or 40 apprentices in. And again, I mean, historically, people have had to have degrees to work in television, and I don't think that's necessary. So that's broadening the range of people. Those apprenticeships are not just in London, because clearly an industry that's focused in London makes it difficult for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. That's one of the things we're doing. Another thing we're doing is around sort of mid-career level. It's encouraging people to get underrepresented groups to step up to the next level, because I think entering the industry has been a challenge, but then career progression, so how people sustain a successful career in the industry, has also been a challenge.
Yeah, you made the point earlier that internships and apprenticeships are going to be reasonably paid, and I think that is also important, as you say. If you aren't getting a decent income, you can't possibly consider working in London.
No, absolutely. But also it's important that, I mean, as you know, I mean, Channel 4 moved out of London, so moved to Leeds, which is a great thing. The BBC are doing more and more out of London. Obviously, ITV has always had a legacy of different places in the nations and regions. And again, I don't think you should have to come to London to have a successful career in television, because that's not inclusive of everybody.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, regional voices are important as everybody else's voice. Yeah,
absolutely.
You clearly at ITV are putting a lot of effort and initiative into this. What's everybody else doing as an industry? How are we tackling this?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's really important is that in the area of diversity and inclusion, I think it is important for us to all work collectively. So, for example, the broadcasters all come together under something called the Creative Diversity Network, and that's all the major broadcasters have worked together. So that's, you know, ITV, BBC, Sky, Channel 4, and through that there's an initiative called Diamond, which is monitoring who is making television on screen and who is behind the camera. And that gives you, and we did the third cut last year, and it gives you a way of measuring progress, because I think one area of diversity and inclusion is that we've all done lots of initiatives but haven't been ruthless enough in how we've measured their success. So clearly the numbers are helpful to do that. So at ITV we publish targets, and we can be measured externally by how well we've progressed against those targets, because I really think transparency and accountability is really important when you're looking at diversity and inclusion. And I think the BBC announced last week that they've got 100 million fund for diverse content. So anything everyone's doing, I think we all collectively benefit from all work in this area.
That's really interesting. So that's a joint initiative. That's across all of the broadcasters in the UK. No.
Well, Creative Diversity Network is, and Diamond is. That's a cross-broadcaster initiative. But the BBC have announced their own money. But obviously, that's talent that will, you know, work across all the businesses.
And it's an inspiration.
Yeah.
So, what does success look like? What happens when you're out of a job?
Yeah, you know, I dream of that day. I dream of that day when I work myself out of a job and I can go back to making programs. That is definitely an aspiration. And I think success looks like when we look like Britain, and when we look at our statistics and say, look, on screen, we've got people of colour that look like that are on big leading roles for ITV. So, you know, with our big stars, and then behind the camera, that statistically we are representative of the population at large. That's what success looks like. And then when we get to that point, I'll go back to making programmes.
That's wonderful. Ade Rawcliffe, thank you very much indeed. Great to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.